Hello, everybody. I'm seeking to achieve enlightenment. Pastor Doug with you on another midweek moment as we go through our summer sermon series together. This week it's on Buddhism, becoming Buddhists, or at least understanding it in our summer sermon series together. A few minutes on a Wednesday, a few more minutes on a Sunday, just sticking our toe in the ocean of possibilities about our neighbors' faith traditions. We have already this summer explored several: the Roman Catholic Church, the Jewish faith tradition, Islam, and our fellow Muslims. And last week was the AME Church, the African American Methodist Episcopal Church, kind of a blanket term for African American denominations. And then this week for July 2nd will be Buddhism, or being a Buddhist. Trying to describe Buddhism has been compared to trying to describe a snowflake, because there's all different, everyone's different, or maybe trying to describe Christianity because there's umpteen different ways to look at it. But Buddhism has taken many forms in its 2,500-year history. Some forms of Buddhism have a godlike belief. Some have various gods with a small g. Some emphasize meditation. Some believe faith is what matters in that particular branch of Buddhism. So they have a whole lot of different schools and branches and sections in their teaching, all really coming from and out of the teachings and the beliefs of Buddhist himself. There was a man named Buddha. His first name was Gautama, 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 lived in the first century in India, and became one who was awakened or enlightened. And he began to teach that really any person could become a Buddha, but all of our teachings come from the historic Buddha himself. At the age of 29, he left home and family to start a spiritual quest to understand the suffering that he saw around him. He studied with various religious teachers. He learned ascetic practices for many years. He finally realized, however, that these practices were not leading him closer to enlightenment. In the Buddhist faith tradition, enlightenment is finding truth in life, finding the truth about life, and you stop being reincarnated, having reached nirvana. You've reached nirvana, their place of enlightenment and peace and all-knowing, right? So he wandered around and preached in northern India. He studied, and he died a peaceful and natural death at 80 years of age, the Buddha. But he taught the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths. One is, the first one, life is suffering. Life is suffering. The second is there's a reason for the suffering. The third is that there is a way to end suffering. And then the fourth noble truth is the way to end that suffering is through the eightfold path, an eightfold path of the way in which one would live out their life, the way you'd live out your life, divided into wisdom, morality, and concentration. So to have, again, this eightfold path to end your personal suffering, achieve enlightenment, would be to have right views about understanding the Buddhist teachings, have high aspirations, speak kind words of truth, don't lie or gossip, good, moral, and compassionate behavior, having an honest living, that doesn't do harm to others. And then persevere in goodness and clearing your mind. Be attentive to the present moment. Concentrate on Buddha through meditation and other means, and learn the basic truth of all things. And so Buddhism has really become very popular, like so many of these. Probably, let's see, Buddhism is enormously successful. More than 50% of the world's population live in areas where Buddhism has been the dominant religion for some time. This is really out in Asia, in the area around Asia, where the Buddhism has grown and become very, very strong. Let's see. So this Eightfold Path is not a linear thing that you follow one after the other. It's just a holistic way of living in Buddhism. Following the Eightfold Path leads to nirvana, which is the end of suffering, nirvana. Although nirvana is sometimes depicted as a place like heaven, it can also be seen as a state of high consciousness, a perfect understanding of reality. So there's a lot of bits and pieces that go with this. Buddhism, I'm trying to think of my own, personal, I think we probably think about a Buddhist as somebody in like an orange robe, chanting, maybe with a candle lit in front of them, and maybe a gong or a cymbal or something along those lines. That's probably from the movies, and from maybe things that we've read or seen online. Let's see. So when Americans think about Buddhism, we kind of think about that Tibet monk, or somebody doing Zen meditation. But anyway, it grew in the 50s and 60s to become more popular here in America. And there's several different forms of Buddhism. Zen Buddhism, Tibetan is another form of Buddhism. It's grown steadily in the second half of the 20th century. Many reasons for this: interest in spirituality in our world today, the goal of enlightenment, the idea of karma, and the Buddha's encouragement to test the teachings of the Buddha against your experience, that kind of thing. The focus is on the practical, about finding our inner peace. I think it's more like an internal journey than it might be one of an external journey in Buddhism. Despite repression in many communist countries, Buddhism remains a vital force in the world today, especially in Asia, but increasing in North America. After 2,500 years, the Buddhist teachings also remain as profound and relevant as ever, which we would also say about Jesus, wouldn't we? Buddhism has much to offer people of all faiths in understanding the human condition and the causes and the cures of suffering. Causes and cures of suffering. In Buddhism, one of their teachings is that God is the ultimate reality, the all, not concerned with how the universe was created. The goal of Buddhism is enlightenment, which is perfect understanding of reality, leading to compassion for all beings, and nirvana, ceasing of all suffering, nirvana. Buddhists believe these Four Noble Truths, which I mentioned, and the Eightfold Path, but are encouraged to test those against their own experience. All people have a Buddha nature, Buddhists claim. The potential to come like that exists in all of us. Buddhists believe in karma, the law of cause and effect. Many Buddhists believe in reincarnation. Every section or division of Buddhism has a different way of worshiping, my friends. Most common are chanting, incense, silent meditation, and maybe a talk by a priest or a monk. So really that's just a brief overview of Buddhism. enlightenment, the end of all suffering. So really thereafter and about that suffering exists in the world, and the way to counter that suffering is to grow internally and be aware of the way you live your life and how you treat others. And doesn't this sound familiar? And being in touch with reality and living out those eightfold truths as you think about suffering out in the world. So it's not just a guy in an orange jumpsuit somewhere on a mountaintop kind of thing, but it's something internal. And they claim in the Buddhist tradition that we all have a little Buddhist inside of us. But like many of these other traditions, we saw that in Islamic faith, where Muhammad was seen as the leader, the teacher of the one who formed that faith tradition in Islam. Jesus in the Christian world, so it's interesting. And I urge you to, again, you can just Google or do some basic searches. I'll have some more information available this week and out in the church lobby on Sunday about Buddhism. I pray that this has been meaningful. The summer sermon series continues. We say happy birthday to our country. At both churches, we have some people, really in need. Don Damrow at Faith is still in the hospital. And of course, at St. Andrews, we have some folks with cancer: Crystal Wall, Bobby Moore, Dale Willman. I don't want to forget anybody. Pardon me if I did. It's late, I'm tired. But send a card, lift a prayer, and God loves you, and so do I. And I'll see you when I see you. God be with you till I see you again. I think that's how I want to say it. Have a good week, everybody. Reach out if I can help.